Churches are meant to be safe places, sacred, protected, but throughout history some of them have become something else entirely. Places where tragedies happened, where people were buried, sometimes in ways they shouldn't have been. Places where, according to witnesses, something never really left. Today I'm gonna tell you about 13 of the creepiest, most mysterious churches and temples in the world. And trust me, some of these stories are going to stick with you. Alright, this one isn't just creepy, it's deeply unsettling, because this is not a normal church. The Sedlec Ossuary, also known as the Bone Church, looks pretty ordinary from the outside. Small, quiet, almost forgettable. But once you step inside, you realize something is very wrong. The entire interior is decorated with human bones, and I don't mean a few relics here and there. We're talking about the remains of 40,000 to 70,000 people, skulls tucked into pyramids, chandeliers made entirely of bones, every single bone in the human body included, even a coat of arms made out of skulls. So how did this happen? Back in the 13th century, a monk brought soil from Jerusalem and spread it over the cemetery here. Suddenly everyone wanted to be buried in this holy ground. Then came the Black Death, followed by the Hussite Wars. Thousands upon thousands of bodies were buried here. Eventually there simply wasn't enough space, so they started digging up the bones and storing them inside the church. Centuries later, an artist was hired to organize them, and his idea of organizing was this. Now here's where it gets even stranger. Visitors often say the place feels off, not just eerie, but heavy, like you're being watched, and honestly, it makes sense. You're standing in a room surrounded by tens of thousands of human remains, and no matter how beautiful the arrangement is, your brain keeps reminding you what you're really looking at. Bones, people, lives that ended, sometimes in pain, sometimes in chaos, and now they're part of the walls. This one feels like stepping into a nightmare you can't wake up from. At first glance, St. George's Church looks abandoned, and that's because it is. Back in the 1970s, part of the roof collapsed during a funeral. People panicked, convinced the building was cursed. After that, the church was completely abandoned. For decades it just sat there, decaying. Broken roof, dust everywhere, silence, until something changed. An artist decided to bring the church back to life, but not in the way you'd expect. Instead of restoring it normally, he filled it with figures, thousands of them, sitting quietly in the pews, covered in white clothes, faceless, motionless. They look exactly like people, or more specifically like spirits. The idea was that these figures represent the souls of the villagers who used to attend the church. But here's the thing. When you walk inside, especially alone, your brain doesn't see art, it sees people, still, silent, watching, and for a split second, you genuinely wonder if one of them might move. Visitors often report feeling intense anxiety here. Some say they hear whispers, others say they feel like they are not alone. And honestly, even knowing it's just an installation, your instincts don't fully believe it because the setting is too perfect. An abandoned church, faded walls, broken lights coming through the ceiling, and figures that look like they're been sitting there, waiting for decades. Alright, now we're stepping into a place that many people call the most haunted church in England, and honestly, after hearing this story, it's not hard to see why. Borley Church is tied to one of the most famous paranormal legends in British history, the story of the Borley Rectory. According to local folklore, back in the Middle Ages, a monk and a nun fell in love, which as you can imagine didn't go well. When their relationship was discovered, the monk was executed, and the nun? She was reportedly bricked up alive inside the walls. Now fast forward centuries later, people living near the church, and especially in the rectory nearby, began reporting strange things. Footsteps when no one was there, lights flickering, objects moving on their own. But the most famous sighting, a ghostly nun walking silently near the churchyard. Witnesses described her as a dark figure gliding along the path, sometimes disappearing right in front of them. And here's where it gets even stranger. Investigators, including famous paranormal researcher Harry Price, documented multiple unexplained events here. We're talking about writing appearing on walls, bells ringing by themselves, and shadows moving in empty rooms. Now skeptics argue that some of these stories were exaggerated, and sure, that's possible. But even today, people who visit the area say the same thing. There is something deeply uncomfortable about this place, like the past didn't fully stay in the past. Now this one is different, because the fear here doesn't come from abandonment or decay. This is a fully active cathedral, right in the heart of one of the most vibrant cities in the world. But the city is New Orleans, and if you know anything about New Orleans, you know it has a reputation. A deep connection to voodoo spirits and the unseen. The St. Louis Cathedral stands in Jackson Square, beautiful, iconic, almost peaceful during the day, but at night the atmosphere changes. Some visitors say they feel a strange energy the moment they step inside, not necessarily evil, but intense, like the place holds layers of history that never fully disappeared, and to be fair, it kind of does. This cathedral has been rebuilt multiple times since the 18th century. Fires, wars, disasters, it's seen everything. And over the years, countless funerals, rituals and prayers have taken place here. Now add to that the influence of figures like Mary Lavier, the legendary voodoo queen of New Orleans. While she wasn't directly tied to the cathedral, her presence in the city blurred the line between Christian faith and spiritual practices. Some believe that energy still lingers. People have reported hearing whispers during quiet moments. Others say they feel watched, even when the cathedral is nearly empty. And then there are those who come to see shadows moving where no one is standing. Of course, nothing is officially confirmed, but in a city like New Orleans, not everything needs proof to feel real. At first glance, Norwich Cathedral looks like exactly what you'd expect from a historical English church. Massive stone walls, beautiful arcs, peaceful cloisters. It's been standing for nearly 1,000 years, and that's exactly the problem, because when a place has been around that long, it has been things. Dark things. During the Middle Ages, England went through periods of intense religious conflicts. People accused of heresy, sometimes unfairly, were punished brutally, and according to local stories, some of those events are still echoing. Visitors and staff have reported seeing shadowy figures in the corridors. Most commonly, a moon-like silhouette appearing briefly and then vanishing. Others describe hearing footsteps late at night, slow, deliberate, even when the building is completely empty. But what really stands out are the reports of sudden, unexplained cold spots. You could be walking through the cathedral normally, and then suddenly the temperature drops. No wind, no reason, just cold. Now, is it paranormal? Maybe. Or maybe it's just your mind reacting to the weight of history. Because when you stand inside a place that has witnessed centuries of suffering, fate, fear, and death, it's hard not to feel something. Alright, this one feels less like a ghost story and more like something went very wrong here. St. Mary's Church in Clowfield is abandoned today. Ruined walls, broken altar, no roof. Just silence and a very uneasy feeling. But what makes this place truly disturbing isn't just its condition, it's what people have found here. Starting in the 1960s, locals began reporting strange activity around the church at night, light flickering in the distance, people gathering in silence, unusual symbols appearing near the altar. Then things escalated. Investigators discovered evidence of occult rituals. We are talking about inverted crosses, burned objects, even reports of animal remains left behind after ceremonies. And the creepiest part, these weren't isolated incidents. Over the years, multiple groups were believed to have used the site for satanic rituals. Now, whether you believe in that or not, the atmosphere here is undeniably heavy. Visitors often say they feel watched, especially near what used to be the altar. Some report hearing footsteps behind them, only to turn around and see nothing. Others say the silence here feels wrong, not peaceful, more like something is waiting. And maybe the most unsettling part is this. Unlike other places on the list, the fear here doesn't come from ancient history, it feels recent. Like whatever happened here might not be completely over. At first glance, this place feels powerful, but safe. The Washington National Cathedral is one of the most important religious buildings in the United States. Presidents have been honored here, national ceremonies take place here. It's grand, majestic, almost untouchable, but even here, there are stories. One of the most famous involves Woodrow Wilson. He's actually buried inside the cathedral, and according to multiple reports, he never fully left. Staff and visitors have claimed to see a figure resembling Wilson walking quietly through the halls at night. Not aggressive, not threatening, just present, almost like he's still keeping watch. But that's not the only strange thing. The cathedral is filled with gargoyles, including one famously modeled after Darth Vader, which already gives the place a slightly eerie edge. Add to that the dim lighting, massive echoing halls, and lone empty corridors at night, and suddenly it doesn't feel quite as comforting. Some visitors report hearing footsteps when no one else is around. Others say they feel a presence standing behind them, especially near the tombs. Now, is it psychological? Maybe. But here's something about a place that holds both national history and human remains that makes it feel like the past is never fully gone. This one doesn't just have a creepy reputation. Some people call it one of the most sinister churches in America. Egg Hill Church, also known St. Peter's Lutheran Church, sits in a remote, wooden area, and right away that isolation changes everything. No crowds, no city noise, just trees and silence. The church dates back to the 17th, and like many old places, it has its share of history, but the stories surrounding it go beyond normal haunted claims. Locals have long believed that the area is tied to dark forces. People report feeling sudden nausea when approaching the site. Others say the equipment, phones, cameras, starts malfunctioning for no clear reason. And then there are the stories about unexplained lights appearing in the woods at night, floating, moving, then disappearing. Some visitors claim they've heard voices, but not in any language they recognize. Now skeptics will say this is just isolation messing with your mind. And to be fair, being alone in a dense forest can definitely play tricks on you. But here's the thing. Even experienced paranormal investigators have described Egg Hall as unusually intense, not just spooky, but oppressive, like the environment itself is pushing you away. And maybe that's why so many people leave quickly, because sometimes your instincts put up on something your brain can explain. Alright, imagine this. You're in the middle of Manhattan, cars, lights, noise everywhere, and suddenly you enter St. Paul's Chapel. It's quiet inside. Too quiet. This church is one of the oldest in New York City. It has survived wars, fires, and even the tragedy of the September 11 attacks, located literally near the epicenter. And surprisingly, it was almost undamaged. For many, this place has become a symbol of protection and hope. But there's another side. Next to the chapel is an old cemetery. And as some visitors claim, it's not always empty. One of the most famous rumors is about the ghost of actor George Frederick Cookie. It's said his figure has been seen near tombstones, especially at dusk. But even if we put also specific legends, people often describe similar sensations, as if someone is watching, as if you're not alone, even if no one else is around. And perhaps it's not just a matter of mysticism. This place has experienced immense human pain, and such things sometimes remain. This story feels like something straight out of a dark fairy tale. The Three Kings Church stands on a hill in Goa. Beautiful view, quiet surroundings, almost peaceful, but the legend behind it, not even close. According to local folklore, there were once three kings competing for control over this land, power, territory, influence. And as these stories usually go, it didn't end well. One of the kings invited the other two for a meeting, a peaceful discussion, but instead of negotiation, he poisoned them, killed them both, and for a moment he had everything, but only for a moment, because the villagers soon found out what he had done. Fearing revenge and unable to escape his guilt, the king reportedly took his own life. All three were buried at the same hill, right where the church now stands, and ever since then, people say they never really left. Visitors, especially at night, report seeing shadowy figures moving across the hill. Some claim they hear whispers carried by the wind. Others say they feel sudden chills, even in the tropical heat. But here's what makes this story stand out. Every year on a specific day, the feast of the Epiphany, locals claim paranormal activity increases. Dolls creak, lights flicker, and the atmosphere becomes heavy. Again, nothing officially proven, but when a place is built on betrayal, murder, and guilt, it's not hard to understand why people feel something is off. This one doesn't rely on dramatic legends. No murders, no curses, just small things. And sometimes those are the creepiest. St. Andrew's Church in Quebec looks calm, traditional, exactly what you'd expect. But over the years, people start noticing something strange. Objects moving, candles shifting slightly on their own, chairs not being exactly where they were left. Nothing extreme, just enough to make you question your memory. At first it was easy to dismiss. Someone moved in, you remember it wrong. But then came the sound, soft footsteps when the building was empty, faint echoes like someone quietly walking behind you, and occasionally bells ringing without anyone near them. Now, none of this is dramatic enough to make headlines, but that's what makes it unsettling, because it feels consistent, like something is here but not trying to scare you, just existing. And that creates a different kind of fear. No panic, more like constant quiet discomfort, the kind that follows you even after you leave. Alright, for this one we're going back to Europe, and at first St. Nicholas Church in Prague doesn't look scary at all. It's stunning, huge dome, golden details, baroque, architecture at its finest. During the day it's full of light, music, tourists, but at night it becomes a completely different place. This church dates back to the 18th century, built on top of even older religious foundations. And like many places in Prague, it carries layers of history most people don't even think about. Now here's where things get interesting. Staff members have reported hearing footsteps in empty corridors late at night. Slow, measured, like someone walking with purpose. Security has checked multiple times. No one there. Others describe hearing faint organ music, even when the instrument hasn't been touched. And then there are the shadows, not the kind your brain easily explains. People talk about shapes moving across walls, even when the lighting doesn't change. But the most unsettling reports come from those who stayed inside after hours. A few claim they felt a sudden, overwhelming presence, not aggressive, but intense, like someone standing very close behind you, watching. Now, is it paranormal, or is it just what happened when you're alone in a massive, centuries-old cathedral? Hard to say, but the Prague has a reputation for a reason. It's a city where history feels alive, and sometimes, maybe a little too alive. This church looks completely ordinary. If you walked past it during the day, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But according to local stories, sometimes he refuses to stay quiet. Visitors have reported hearing voices inside the church when it's empty. Not loud, not clear, just faint whispers, like fragments of conversation you're not supposed to hear. Some say the light flickers without explanation. Others mention sudden cold spots, familiar patterns by now, right? But what stands out most is the feeling. People describe it as being watched, not in a dramatic horror movie way, more subtle, like someone is just there, observing, waiting. And again, there is no official explanation, no confirmed incidents, just consistent experience from different people over time. And sometimes that's enough, because when multiple strangers describe the same feeling in the same place, you start to wonder. If you enjoyed this video, let me know which place disturbed you the most. Like, subscribe, and see you in next video. Bye bye.